Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to build a kind of chemical map, a blueprint for exactly how different drugs manage to hijack our brain's operating system and completely change the way we see the world.
And really, it all boils down to this one question, doesn't it? How can one tiny chemical, something so small, have the power to completely rewrite everything you see, everything you feel, and everything you believe to be true?
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll survey the chemical battlefield inside our own heads. Then we'll dive into the uppers, the downers, and the reshapers. And finally, we'll tally up the final cost of it all.
Okay, let's get right into it. Before you can understand how any of this works, you've got to understand the landscape. Your brain, it's this incredibly complex network that runs on chemical messengers, right? They're called neurotransmitters. They control everything, your mood, your focus, even your breathing. And here's the key thing to get. Drugs don't invent new feelings. They're not creating anything from scratch. They're just hijacking the systems you already have and cranking the volume way up or slamming it all the way down.
All right, first up, stimulants. The uppers. These are the drugs that basically slam the gas pedal on your central nervous system. They promise you this feeling of infinite energy, focus, and euphoria. And they do it by hot-wiring your brain's natural reward circuits.
What's so fascinating here is how they each get the job done a little differently. Take cocaine. It zeroes in on dopamine, your pleasure chemical, and basically tells the brain's cleanup crew to take a break. The result? A flood of feel-good signals. Then you've got MDMA, which just opens the floodgates for serotonin. That's our natural chemical for happiness and connection, which is what causes that feeling of maximum empathy overload. And methamphetamine? Well, that's just a pure lightning bolt. It supercharges both dopamine and adrenaline for this massive, totally unsustainable burst of energy.
And this, right here, this is the classic bait and switch of stimulants. The peak feels absolutely incredible. You feel powerful, untouchable, like a genius. But here's the catch. All that feeling, it's borrowed. It's a high-interest loan on your own brain chemistry. The cost is a chemical crash that is just as intense as the high. Sudden anxiety, exhaustion, and this gnawing craving to do it all over again, just to feel normal.
All right, so let's flip the script and look at the complete opposite, the depressants. Instead of hitting the accelerator, these drugs slam on the brakes. They slow everything down, offering this promise of a quiet escape from all the noise, from pain, from stress, from anxiety.
So with these, the name of the game isn't a rush, it's all about suppression. Alcohol is kind of like a bull in a china shop. It just slows down communication all across the brain, which is why you get that feeling of losing control. Opioids are way more precise. They lock onto specific receptors to just turn off pain signals and wrap you in this profound sense of warmth. And then there are benzodiazepines. These guys boost a neurotransmitter called GABA. Just think of GABA as your brain's natural emergency brake. Benzos, they just yank that brake as hard as they can, silencing the mind.
And man, this really gets to the cruel heart of depressants, especially opioids. The peak is this feeling of absolute safety. It's like you're sinking into the softest, warmest blanket in the world, and nothing can touch you. But the cost? The cost is a withdrawal so brutal it's hard to describe. Your body literally revolts against you, with every nerve ending screaming for the one and only thing that can make it stop.
Okay, now we're getting into the really weird stuff. The most unpredictable category, the reshapers. These substances don't just turn the volume up or down on your feelings. They change the song completely. They warp the very fabric of your perception and promise you a peek behind the curtain into a whole new reality. You can see here how these drugs just fundamentally mess with how your brain builds reality. LSD and psilocybin or magic mushrooms, they both target your serotonin system, but they do it in a way that makes your senses get their wires crossed. That's why people report that reality itself feels like it's breathing or like they're seeing the machinery of their own mind. Ketamine's different. It blocks glutamate, which is a major messenger for sensory information. By shutting that down, it creates this profound detachment from your own body and the world around you.
And that experience right there, that's the textbook definition of a dissociative. It's a drug-induced state where your mind literally feels separated from your body's experience. You might feel like you're floating, looking down on yourself, watching your life like it's a movie. It can be incredibly profound, for sure, but also deeply disorienting.
This quote just nails the fundamental risk, right? These substances can open doors in your mind, but there's no guarantee those doors will shut properly when the trip is over. The changes they make, the things you see, sometimes they stick around.
Okay, so we've seen the incredible highs and the awful lows. Let's tie it all together and talk about the final trap that sits underneath all of these substances,
the insidious, vicious cycle of chemical dependency.
This four-step process, you can see it with almost any substance. It's the blueprint for addiction. And man, is it a sneaky trap. It always starts with a promise, right? A feeling you want. But with every use, your brain starts to adapt, to rewire itself. It starts to produce less of its own feel-good chemicals, which leads to tolerance. You need more just to get back to where you started. And that's the final turn of the key. Before you know it, you're not even taking the drug to feel good anymore. You're just taking it to stop feeling terrible.
And here's the most twisted part of the whole thing. The drug actually creates the very problem that it pretends to solve. Stimulants make you feel like you can't possibly be sharp or confident without them. Depressants convince you that you'll never feel calm on your own. Your brain literally becomes less able to produce these feelings naturally. So the relief you get from the next dose? It's just temporary relief from the chemical hole the last dose dug.
I mean, this quote just says it all. That infinite energy, that deep, perfect calm, that incredible insight, it isn't magic. It's not created from thin air. It's an energy loan that you are taking out against your own future. And the interest rates are absolutely brutal. And that just leaves us with this one final kind of haunting question to think about. When all the chemicals fade away, when the brain has been rewired, and the bill comes due, what's actually left?